we end up with these large high rise, they're oppressive buildings. We've talked a little bit about, the child to adult ratio. Let's talk about just kind of killing community, like the intangible here, because a lot of the people like either interviewed or that you have snippets from, they talk about how they used to love it, and then
Yeah.
there's a lack of community, right? You don't have that when you cut costs everywhere. On a much smaller scale, we see this with flipping houses, right? If you just put like bare bones out there, you don't stage, you don't do anything special, it's blah, right? And that's what you ended up here on a much, much, much larger scale. So just talk a little about like the lack of community and just how that played in a factor overall into this. And I know it's hard to quantify.
Yeah, yeah. So when I say lack of community, I ought to be a little careful. There were certainly a lot of residents who thought, "Hey, I like my community. There are people who are in this very difficult situation where the mechanicals go down, when the plumbing's not working, the elevators are going down, the trash chutes are on fire. That they're like they band together and like soldiers in war. I mean, that doesn't mean we should continue to operate under those conditions or continue to fight a war, right? But that there's a lot of camaraderie, but that it became very difficult then to attract working class families, or even a lot of low income families avoided public housing. It became housing of last resort. The people there were banded together as a community in ways that are not the way that we expect middle class or working class families to live. So there's a standard there. Am I projecting my values on low income residents if they have their own cultural norms around getting together, around sharing, around making it work? So it was a community that the rest of the city looked at and thought was awful, deviant, et cetera. I mean, Mayor Richard M. Daley, Daley's son, looked at it and just couldn't stand it. He didn't like the aesthetics. He didn't like the way it looked. He didn't like the fact people were hanging around. He didn't like the music and the noise and all the things that are part of the way that public housing residents adapted to their difficult situation. He didn't like that and wanted to tear it down. And so we've been tearing it down. And I think that was ultimately the right decision for mechanical, and just because these buildings were unworkable as buildings. Sorry, that was I kind of wound around there a little bit. Community is important. But who am I to judge someone's community is part of it. I visited, and the conditions, when I talked to residents, there was this real contrast. So I walked into the Robert Taylor homes probably in 1997, 8, I can't remember. And the stairwells were just a disaster. All the lights were out. It was dark. I could tell vaguely there was graffiti all over the walls. The elevator didn't work. The smells were awful. It was trash and urine. It was just awful. And I walked up 3 floors, and things were rusted everywhere. It just looked like, a complete disaster. And then I walked into an apartment, and it was spotless. The tenants, to make up for, to compensate for the chaos around them, had apartments often, not always, but often, that were just spotless to a point that I was like, wow, this is absolutely precise. You could tell that they were trying to create a zone of safety and order amidst immense disorder. And so, it was, there's a lot of emotion there.